Something different is happening with you. It is not weakness nor confusion. It is an internal movement that cannot be explained with logic. It's as if everything around you is still the same, but inside, you know that you are no longer the same person. If you feel this, you may be experiencing a rare sign of spiritual awakening. This sign does not appear in just anyone. It manifests in moments of transition, when the soul begins to remember who it is. When the emptiness of distractions no longer satisfies, and a sense of urgency for something deeper, something more genuine, emerges. This does not come by choice. It comes by preparation. And only the strongest chosen ones can sustain this kind of transformation. It is not about being better than others. It is about being ready for something that many would not yet endure. The sign is silent but strong. It changes the way you feel, think, and see life. And when it comes, nothing that was once ordinary remains sufficient. You know that you are changing. In this video, you will understand 7 clear signs that indicate this process has already begun within you. If any of them resonate with you, take it seriously. Your spiritual journey is revealing itself. And understanding this can completely change the way you live from now on. I am George. If this topic makes sense to you, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. This content is made for those seeking truth and not superficiality. Following is simple, but it can be the first step towards something much greater. There comes a moment when you look at everything around you and feel that nothing fits anymore. The routine, the commitments, the conversations, the goals. Everything seems to have lost its value. It's as if you are living a life built by someone else. You notice that something has changed, and that change started from within. It is not regret. It is not disdain for what you have built. It is simply clarity. Your consciousness has expanded. Your perception has matured. And now what once motivated you no longer makes sense. It is not about throwing everything away, but about recognizing that the structure no longer accommodates who you are becoming. You begin to realize that you followed paths out of obligation, to please, to fit in. And now that weighs heavy. What was comfortable has become suffocating. What seemed like success now feels like a prison. This feeling is not failure, it is awakening. Your soul is showing you that the cycle has turned, even if no one else notices. The goals you set no longer excite you. The places you used to frequent feel empty, and even the conversations that once filled you now sound shallow. This does not make you ungrateful. It makes you aware. When purpose begins to emerge, the old life reveals itself to be too small for what is being born. You try to ignore it. You try to follow the routine as you always have. But something inside you is unsettling. It is subtle, but constant. It is as if a silent voice says, "This is no longer you." You may even pretend for others, but you can no longer fool yourself. The soul does not go back once it wakes up. This discomfort is a sign of growth. Your vision is changing, and with it, your world also needs to change. Sometimes this happens in silence. Other times, it comes with a rupture, but the process is inevitable. What does not change is the fact that you no longer fit in the old life. You begin to want more presence, more truth, more essence. The automatic no longer serves. The urgency no longer convinces. And what was routine transforms into questioning. This discomfort, as uncomfortable as it may seem, is healthy. It is pushing you toward a new cycle, one that is more aligned with who you truly are. Not everyone around you understands. They will say that you have changed, become more closed off, more distant. But the truth is that you are returning to yourself. What they call a crisis is, in fact, transformation. And all this is part of the process for those who are genuinely awakening. You may not even know what the next step is, but you already know which path you can no longer follow. This clarity, as painful as it may be, is a gift. It is the foundation of the new that will be built. Your soul is alive, and it is asking for space, not to return, but to start over. You begin to realize that something has changed in your relationships. Conversations that once flowed now seem forced. Laughter that used to make sense now sounds empty. It's not that you have stopped loving these people. It's that the frequency has changed. And you feel, even without being able to explain, that you are speaking a language that not everyone understands. This disconnection can be silent. There are no fights, no explicit hurt feelings, but there is a growing distance, almost invisible. And this hurts, because these are people who have been with you at other times, important people who were part of your journey. But now, no matter how much you try to stay close, something feels out of place. It is natural to want to hold on to these connections, to try to keep everything as it was. But the truth is that bonds also have cycles. And when your soul begins to awaken, not everyone will be ready to keep up. Some relationships were important for who you were, but they do not sustain who you are becoming. You are not rejecting anyone. You are simply respecting your process. There is a phase of awakening in which loneliness becomes inevitable. Not because you want to isolate yourself, but because your inner self is asking for silence, truth, presence. And this is not always possible in environments that still live on autopilot. The pain of distance can generate guilt. You wonder if you are being cold, ungrateful, strange. But over time you realize that it is not you who is pulling away. It is your energy that is asking for space. You are cleansing yourself from the inside, and not everyone understands or respects that. And that's okay. Not everyone who started with you will finish with you. And this needs to be accepted with maturity. Some connections end without guilt, just with awareness. And when you understand this, you stop forcing encounters that no longer nourish you, and begin to make space for the new to present itself. The distancing, as lonely as it may seem, is also fertile ground. In this interval, new people emerge. People who understand you without needing you to explain, who vibrate on the same frequency, who look into your eyes and see truth. These new bonds do not negate the old ones, but show that your journey continues in a different way. You do not need to justify yourself to everyone. Those who truly love you will realize that your search is not against anyone, it is for yourself. And those who do not understand now may understand later. Your role is not to explain yourself all the time, but to respect yourself. Even if this costs you some distance. This realignment in relationships is not a sign of loss, it is a sign of advancement. When the soul grows, it removes what does not keep up and attracts what adds to it. You are not becoming alone. You are being repositioned. You are creating space for the connections that truly walk with your purpose. Do not be afraid of this phase. The solitude of awakening is not a punishment. It is a bridge. A path between who you were and who you are becoming. And on the other side, you will find people who not only stay, but walk with you, side by side, in truth. Everything feels more intense. Common sounds annoy you. Crowded environments drain your energy. Even everyday conversations become tiring. You start to realize that what used to be normal now weighs heavily. And it is not because you are fragile. It is because you are more sensitive. Your spiritual field is more open, more awake, more selective. It is not about being finicky. It is perception. You feel more than others. You pick up on the intention behind words, sense when the environment is charged, and notice the emptiness disguised as joy. This sensitivity is not a flaw. It is a sign that your consciousness is expanding. And the more it expands, the more the superficial becomes exhausting. You start to avoid crowds. You feel a need for silence. Excess stimuli irritate you. You do not want to isolate yourself, but you can no longer tolerate living with so much noise. It's as if everything outside is moving too fast, and you need some time to truly breathe. This overload can be confusing. Sometimes you think you are becoming strange. Other times, you think you are becoming anxious. But that is not it. It is your soul asking for lightness, asking for a clean environment, true presence and conscious pauses. It can no longer handle the pace imposed by a distracted and noisy world. You become more selective, with whom you talk, where you walk, what you consume. Even the content you used to watch starts to lose meaning. It is as if your inner self creates a natural filter, a type of spiritual protection that says, "This no longer serves." You start to respect this filter and take better care of where you place your attention. The people around you may not understand. They may think you are distant, disconnected, or even stuck up. But you know you are just trying to maintain your peace. And in this process, you realize that you do not need to explain everything. If something does not do you good, it does not need to remain. This sensitivity also brings you closer to the essential. You start to reconnect with what is simple yet true. You value a sincere conversation, time alone, a song that touches deeply. The superficial has lost its appeal. Now you seek meaning, and the world, as it is, can no longer offer that. It is shocking to realize that the lifestyle that so many advocate no longer serves you. Working without pause, consuming without thinking, running without direction. All of this now sounds like distant noise. Your soul wants something different. And this change of pace may be frightening, but it also liberates. Over time, you understand that this overload is a call, a sign that it is time to simplify, clean, and reduce. The outside noise is becoming unbearable, because what is being born inside you needs space, and it only grows where there is silence, truth, and presence. So respect this new sensitivity. It is a gift, a sign that you are awake, and once you awaken, you cannot go back to living as before. Take care of your energy, protect your environment, and understand, this phase is not isolation. It is strengthening. There comes a moment when comparison loses its meaning. You start to realize that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. The rush to be the best, the urgency to show results, all of this begins to dissolve. Not because you've given up, but because you've understood that your worth is not tied to performance, but to essence. Before, you looked at others trying to keep up. Now, you look inward, seeking understanding. External references no longer guide your steps. What moves you now is purpose, not approval. Competition is exhausting. It wastes energy on what doesn't matter. And when the soul awakens, it chooses to conserve energy for what is real. You begin to respect your own rhythm, to understand that not everything fast is right, that everyone has their own time, their own story, their own processes. Comparison gives way to empathy, and another's success ceases to be a threat. It becomes a sign that it is possible, without stealing your space. The desire to compete makes way for the desire to serve. You want to do things well, with truth, even if no one sees. The focus shifts. It moves from "I want recognition" to "I want impact." You no longer run to be first, you run to not lose meaning. This transition can scare those who are still in the external race. They will say that you have lost focus, that you are slow, that you need to assert yourself more. But you have already understood that what comes from God does not require forced effort. It guides, directs, aligns, and peace becomes the new parameter. You realize that the lighter you walk, the further you go. That you don't need to shout to be heard. That you don't need to compete to grow. This changes everything. The battles are now internal. They are against your own doubts, not against others, and winning these fights is worth more than any trophy. Comparison also loses strength because you begin to see what really matters. The shine of others does not extinguish yours, and what is reserved for you is occupied by no one else. This understanding takes the weight off your shoulders. It removes anxiety. It brings freedom. And freedom, in the end, is the greatest sign of growth. The awakened soul seeks truth, and truth does not need to compete. It simply is. Your presence, your work, your commitment, all becomes a reflection of what you carry, not of what you try to prove. And this change in posture completely transforms the way you walk. If today you feel that you no longer want to compete for space, nor prove your worth, understand, this is not weakness. It is a sign of maturity. It is spiritual awareness. It is clarity. You are not losing strength. You are merely aligning your energy with what truly matters. And that, in the end, is what sets you apart. You begin to lose track of time. Some hours feel like minutes. Other moments, even short ones, carry a deep weight. The logic of the clock no longer fits with what you are experiencing inside. This is not distraction. It is a sign that your perception is changing. Your soul is stepping out of the rhythm of the world and entering another tempo. Chronological time, made up of hours and goals, starts to lose its importance. You connect more with the experience of the moment than with its counting. What matters is not how long it took, but what it awakened in you. This is an expansion of consciousness. It's when the now comes to life, and the later stops controlling everything. You feel that the days are more intense. A 10-minute conversation can mean more than an entire week. A short silence can bring more clarity than 1,000 words. This happens because your sensitivity is heightened. You are more present, more attentive, more real, and that changes everything. The hustle that once motivated you now begins to bother you. The pressure for quick results no longer attracts you. You want to live with purpose, not just fulfill tasks. This new rhythm may put you in conflict with the environment around you. But inside you, something has already understood that living with presence is more valuable than running without direction. Spiritual time is not measured by minutes, but by transformations. Sometimes, a pause is worth more than a year of rushing. Sometimes, a day of awareness is worth more than months on autopilot. Your soul knows this, and it begins to pull you toward a type of time where there is depth, not just speed. You realize that everything has a correct timing, but this timing is not on the clock. It is in the process. It is in listening. It is in what is being generated from within. Impatience diminishes. Anxiety loses ground. Because you understand that not everything needs to happen now, and that the right things occur when the soul is ready. This new perspective on time also changes your relationship with cycles. You stop forcing endings. You cease to rush new beginnings. You learn to respect the phase you are in. And this brings peace, because you understand that even waiting has value, that even silence teaches, that even pauses produce growth. The world demands urgency from you, but you begin to choose presence. And this choice changes the way you live. It's not about doing more things in less time, but about doing what matters with more awareness. Depth becomes more important than quantity. The quality of the moment becomes your new measure. Perhaps not everyone will understand this new rhythm, but you understand, because you feel. And when the soul feels, there is no argument that can undo that. You are not wasting time. You are learning to use it wisely. You are stopping counting hours and starting to count meanings. And this is a sign that you are awakening. Even when surrounded by people, you feel the need to be alone. It is not isolation, nor sadness. It is an internal search for silence, for clarity, for space. The presence of others does not bother you, but it does not fulfill you. Your soul wants to hear itself, and for that, it asks for silence. Not from the environment, but from the agitation that comes from outside. This desire to be alone is not an escape. It is a return. It is as if, away from external voices, you can finally listen to your own truth. Moments of solitude become a refuge, a place where you reconnect. Think more clearly, feel more deeply, and breathe more lightly. Solitude at this stage ceases to be absence and becomes a meeting. This process is not empty, it is filling. You emerge from solitude more whole than when you entered. You come out renewed, more aware of yourself, lighter. What once seemed like loneliness is now self-care, a necessary time to balance what the world disrupts, a rest for the soul that is in constant awakening. And the more you respect this need, the more you feel you are being guided. Because in the silence, you begin to realize that God also speaks softly. He whispers, corrects, comforts. And you only hear this when you allow yourself to stop. Stop pleasing, stop proving, stop rushing. Just stop and listen. There is something inside you that still has no name, but already has strength. An unrest that does not go away, a feeling that there is something greater waiting to happen. You do not know exactly what it is, but you know you cannot ignore it. This perception does not come from the mind. It comes from the soul, and it insists, even in silence. You look around and feel that something is missing. It is not emotional emptiness, nor a desire for recognition. It is a calling that pulses even when everything is in order. It is as if there is a mission linked to your existence. Something you cannot explain in words, but that moves you with intensity every day. This mission does not appear clearly all at once. It reveals itself gradually, through signs, discomforts, and internal changes. Each difficult phase, each distancing, each unexpected pain. Everything seems to have a role in your preparation. And the more you resist, the more you feel you are wasting time on what does not matter. The mission begins as an unrelenting question. Why am I here? And it continues echoing until you stop fleeing from the answers. It does not demand haste. It demands surrender. You do not need to have all the answers now. You just need to accept that there is something greater being built inside you, even without visibility. This preparation is not easy. It stirs everything. Your relationships, your beliefs, your routine. Nothing remains untouched. But gradually, you realize that this is not confusion. It is alignment. God is removing the excess, the deviation, the noise. He is clearing the way so that when the mission is clear, you will be ready to fulfill it. Even without details, you can already feel direction. Your heart begins to reject what has no purpose. Your eyes no longer sparkle at just anything. You want truth, essence, depth. And this inner hunger is the first evidence that you have been set apart, not to be better, but to live with meaning. Some around you may not understand. They will think you are disconnected, distracted, different. But you have already understood that this mission is not external. It is born from within. It does not depend on approval. It does not need explanation. Those who are called feel. And even without proof, they begin to move with a different kind of focus. The time for complete revelation will come. But in the meantime, The most important thing is to continue listening to this calling seriously. Each decision aligned with your truth is already part of the mission. Every choice you make for consciousness and not for convenience brings you a little closer to your real path. You do not need to get on any stage to fulfill a purpose. The mission has nothing to do with visibility. It has to do with truth. Sometimes it is fulfilled in silence, in caring for someone, in the yes you give to God in things no one sees. The weight of the mission is not in fame. It is in surrender. If you feel this inside you, trust. Do not ignore it. Do not postpone it. Do not doubt it. You are not late. You are being shaped. When the mission arrives in full, you will recognize it, and you will understand that everything that brought you here was part of the process. Nothing was in vain. If you have identified with all of this, know this. It is not imagination, nor exaggeration. It is real. Something inside you is awakening, and this process does not happen to everyone. It comes when the soul is ready, when the external no longer makes sense and the internal begins to guide. It is uncomfortable at first, but deeply transformative. You are being pulled toward a life with more truth, more intention, and more depth. This requires courage. It requires you to let go of old patterns, old certainties, and even some people. But what comes in place of that is much more aligned with who you truly are. And this makes the process worthwhile. It is not about following models. It is about returning to your essence, remembering what you have always felt but never knew how to explain. This call does not seek applause. It seeks surrender. And when you accept this journey, you begin to realize that nothing has been by chance. Everything has brought you here for a reason. Awakening does not isolate, it selects. And in this new cycle, you attract more genuine connections, deeper conversations, and more authentic experiences. It may be that not every